Welcome to the Cozza Lawcast, where life, business, and the law collide. And now, here's your host, attorney, and founder of the Cozza Law Group, Rocco Cozza.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Cozza Lawcast. So we made it to 2021, and maybe one of your resolutions or one of your goals for this year is starting that business you've been thinking about. Well, if that is the case, then this is the video for you. In today's video, I'm going to go through all the steps you need to take when starting your business. And I have quite a bit, so I actually took some notes just to make sure I cover everything I want to cover. And I think I want to make this a comprehensive yet simple guide to walk you through the process when starting your business. Now, in this video, we're not going to talk about marketing or branding because that's really not my forte. I want to talk about really the legal things you need to do when setting up your business. So say you have this business idea, maybe it's a service or maybe it's a product you're going to sell, whatever the case may be, the first thing you need to do is get your entity set up. Now that could be an LLC, that can be a corporation, but this is the foundation of your business. So I like to explain to clients when starting a business that it's like building a house, right? The entity you form is the foundation of your house, and that has to be done correctly. Now look, you can go on your Secretary of State's website, wherever you're located, and fill out the state forms. They're pretty simple to do. And even getting an EIN number is not that difficult to do through the IRS website. But there are some other things you need to afford yourself the protections in either an LLC or a corporation gives you. And that is, if an LLC, it's your operating agreement. If it's a corporation, it's your bylaws. Those are the documents that really talk about limiting liability. The whole point of having an entity when you run a business is to limit your personal liability. So if you're not going to set it up correctly, why set it up at all? So when we work with clients, we encourage them, if it's not us, to find some business lawyer to get their entity set up, because you want to make sure your foundation is done correctly. And by doing that, it'll give you this peace of mind moving forward. Now, let's say you got the entity set up, right? You did it right, it's set up, maybe it's an LLC or a corporation, it's incorporated in a state where you're operating. What's the next thing you need to do? Well, the next thing you need to do is have an agreement between all the owners. Now, if you're a single member LLC or a single shareholder corporation, this doesn't matter that much. Your operating agreement and your bylaws will take care of everything. But if you have multiple partners or multiple shareholders, you want to make sure you have either a shareholder agreement or a members agreement. And what this document does is it really sets forth the expectations between the partners. Who's going to do what and when? How are we going to allocate profits? What happens if someone passes? What happens if someone gets disabled? What happens if we disagree? What happens if someone wants to buy my interest in the company? These agreements, your shareholder agreement, your member agreement, they talk about that. Sometimes they're called a buy-sell agreement as well. But what this really does in simple terms is it basically sets forth an agreement between all the owners of the company to say what happens in a situation of death, disability, disagreement, or an offer to buy the company, or if someone wants out. This is a very important agreement because I've seen a lot of people get themselves in trouble by not having it set forth in writing. Maybe one partner, caused some problems and, committed some level of pseudo fraud, we'll say, and they didn't have an agreement that talked about how do we get a partner out. And had they had this agreement, this process would have been simple, but instead they have to go to court and fight and have a court determine what to do with that partner, what to do with that partner's interest. Or sometimes you have to look at state statutes to really understand what happens in those situations. So this is something that's extremely important. Now, it's not something you may need to do right off the bat if you're trying to save some costs when setting up your entity, because that could be an additional cost. But I always tell people, look, once you start making money or bringing in some income, that's the time you really got to sit down and put this together, especially during the time when everybody's getting along and happy. If you try and put this agreement together down the road when a problem comes up, it's a lot more difficult to do. So that's the second thing you got to think about, the shareholder or members agreements. Now, once you have all this done, right, the next thing you need to do with your entity is make sure you have a bank account, a business bank account. Take all your formation documents, take all your EIN letter. When we work with clients, we actually give them a corporate binder that has everything in it they need to go to the bank and set up their bank account. And the reason why you need to have a business bank account, because a lot of people ask this, well, why can't I just use my personal checking account for my business? Well, the reason why is you need to do what is called keeping the finances separate. You don't want to commingle finances. And the reason why is if you commingle finances and get sued, someone can do what is called piercing the corporate veil. They could basically get at the individual owners because they weren't treating the entity separate from themselves. And the biggest way this happens is when people commingle funds. And all that really means is you're paying personal expenses out of your business account. That's the biggest mistake you can make. And we see it a lot with single member LLCs or single member corporations. They may have their business debit card. They don't have any partners, so they don't have to really worry about it in their mind. So maybe they drive home one day and they stop at the grocery store and they buy some groceries with their business debit card. Well, that's commingling funds because those groceries aren't for the business, yet you're using business funds to purchase them. That could get you in trouble down the road. What we always tell people is set up a bank account, typically where you bank personally, because it makes it very easy to transfer money online. If you need money from your business, just take a distribution or a transfer from your business account to your personal account, and your accountant can set up either your payroll or how you take these. But if push comes to shove, just do that. And that keeps that commingling argument off the table. So that's the next thing you got to do is get that bank account right. After that, you really want to look at what business licenses you may need. So if you're a brick and mortar business, maybe you have a storefront, you're a retail location, a coffee shop, you may need a business occupancy permit, you may need a sales tax license, a vendor's license. This is something you look at the state level, the municipal level, your county level, your city level. And the easiest way to do that, either work with your lawyer to kind of find that, or you can just contact those agencies, right? Contact your county, contact your city or your borough, and ask them what type of business licenses you need. Now, if you're a professional like a lawyer or a doctor or an accountant, we also have professional licenses we have to have, right? I have to be licensed to practice law in the states where I practice. But what I'm talking about here is really just the license is required to operate your business. Most of the time, it really deals with your occupancy permits and your sales tax and vendor permits. But this is the next thing you need to do. Look at those things. Now, so you got your entity set up, you have your agreement between the shareholders and owners, you have your bank account set up, you looked at the business licenses, you got all of those, and now you're up and running, right? So the next thing you really need to think about doing is protecting your intellectual property. Now that could be your name or your logo, right? You can think about trademarking that. If it's starting to get some traction and it's unique and you want to protect the brand name, a trademark's a way to do it. Definitely go out and buy your domain name. We typically recommend people buying their domain name as soon as they set up their business, or maybe even before, because the cost of a domain is maybe $10, $15. It's worth the investment to protect it. So if you want to protect your name or your logo or your slogan, that's a trademark. Say maybe you've created a product, a physical product, or a process. That may be something you want to think about patenting. And that's you would talk to a patent lawyer about that. Or maybe you created software or wrote a book or have some really interesting course or material. That's something you may want to copyright. That's a way to protect intellectual property. Now, there's a whole different strategy we can get into, and this is more advanced, and we're going to do this. We're creating this legal library, and we're going to have some advanced videos in there, and you'll get some information about that down the road. But an advanced strategy as you grow as a business and start acquiring all this intellectual property is to create an IP holding company and put the IP in that company and then license it back to your other entities. It's a really advanced strategy, but a lot of businesses use it, and it's a great strategy to segregate assets, to segregate revenue, and that's something we would talk about in an advanced video. This is more about just starting the business. So we had the formation of your entity, your agreement, your bank account, your business licenses, your IPs, or your IP protection, excuse me. The last two things I really recommend doing is, first, I don't like to call it a business plan, because business plan in most people's mind makes their head spin. It's cumbersome. It's hard to really put together, because when a true traditional business plan has a lot of stuff in it. You have projections of financials, you have your executive summary, your SWOT analysis. I like to tell people to put together an execution plan. What are the things you need to do over the next 12 months to make your business successful? Put that to paper. This is a mistake a lot of businesses make, is they don't actually put their plan down on paper, so they don't really have a roadmap to success. If you look 12 months forward and say, how is success defined to me in 12 months? And then reverse engineer the steps to get there, that's your execution plan. You put that down on paper, and that gives you the roadmap to follow. Now, this is not necessarily legal advice, but it's definitely good business advice. So create your execution plan. And the last thing you want to think about doing is, whether you're selling products or services, or maybe it's a course, or you have a website, all of the agreements you need, your contracts. If you have a website and you're selling products on it, you definitely need a terms of service and privacy policy. If you're selling services, you need a services agreement with your clients. If you're sharing confidential information, you need a non-disclosure agreement. There's a lot of different agreements you need based upon the various businesses you can start. And this is why having a lawyer to work with, especially a business lawyer, to really help dissect your business and say, hey, here's the agreements you need to have in place. Like, a lot of clients will come to us and they'll have a website set up, and they're actually making sales on the website, but then we go to the site and realize they don't have a terms of service or privacy policy. They don't say what they're doing with people's information, or if the data is secure, or how the payments are processed, or the refund policy. These are things that are absolutely paramount in having a business that operates online. And if you operate offline, there are other agreements you need to have in place as well. And this is really why I like to stress to people, you need to work with a business lawyer. Look, not everybody likes lawyers. I get that, right? We can be expensive people. We have a bad name, but we try and encourage people, if you're building a business, right, you want to make sure you have the right foundation and the right team in place. You're not going to like every lawyer you meet. And I encourage you to interview quite a few to find someone that understands your business, understands your needs, and puts your business first. You want good client service from a lawyer. You want someone to take an interest in your success, not just look at you as a transaction. This is an important thing. And now that we're starting a new year, and I know a lot of people out there are thinking about starting these businesses, find the right team. You don't need to spend money on everything. And we tell our clients this all the time. You don't need to pay us to do certain things. Like your business licenses, we can point you in the right direction. Why spend money having us do it when it's simple for you to do? But there are certain things you absolutely should have us do. And a lot of the things I talked about in this video are things that we would do for clients. So I hope this gave you a good roadmap if you're thinking about starting a business. And to summarize, it's really form your entity, make sure you have your agreement between your owners or shareholders, you set up your bank account, you get your business licenses, you protect your IP, you create your execution plan, and you make sure you have all the agreements in place you need. This is literally meant to be a roadmap. It's not meant to be fully comprehensive. There's a lot of things to each of these pieces, but this should give you a good roadmap to get started. As I always say, this isn't legal advice. This is merely educational in nature. If you do need help with any of this and you are in one of the states where we provide services, please feel free to reach out to our firm. I'll put the link down below. I really appreciate all of you watching this video. I wish you all the best in 2021. Stay optimistic. This is going to be an amazing year. If you haven't done so yet, subscribe to the YouTube channel, give this video a thumbs up, and hit the notification bell so you know that new videos are posted. And also, if you haven't done so, go over to our Facebook page and follow us over there. I'll put that link down below as well. Again, thank you all for watching, and I will see you on the next video.
Thanks for listening to the Cozza Lawcast, where life, business, and the law collide. To find out more about the Cozza Law Group, check out www.cozzalaw.com.